Greetings! I am Fire Lotus, and welcome to or welcome back to my page. So today, now I did make a 3-minute video already that I've put up, so you should totally go check that out. But today we're going to talk about etiquettes, basically hexing, baneful working, and how to balance that out. And then I'm going to leave everybody with a question after that. So for one, before I get into this is just how I see it in my practice, knowing that everybody is going to have different ethics and different moral compasses when it comes to this type of working. And, depending on your path, you're going to have a different belief, but this is mine and just some advice in general. So, for one, it is the responsibility of a witch, of all witches, to think before they hex, cast, throw magic in any way, shape, or form. And what I mean by that is we have to sit down and think, is it worth it? Is this situation worth giving our time and energy into? And depending on how you work the spell, you may be giving your energy to it multiple different times. Is it worth it, though? And then on top of that, you also have to take into account, and this is almost with any spell work, and again, not all witches do this, about the psyche of the person you're doing it with or you're doing it on. And then on top of that, not karma, because we don't use that term, but the ripple effects of how that hex or baneful working is going to basically affect you and or anybody around that specific person. Now, again, I know not all witches follow this, and that's perfectly okay. We're all different. Now, once you've gone into that and you finally made your decision, what type of hex are you going to do? Now, what I'm about to suggest is not a hex, but it's known as a, oh my god, brain. Sorry about that. Y'all know I don't edit my videos. Anyways, it's almost a retribution spell. There we go. That was what I was looking for. Retribution spell. Now, a retribution spell, the way that it's worked out, and it may not have that actual title, you may find them under like justice spells. But basically, instead of just doing a hex, right? And depending on the hex, whether you're screwing their job, their life, whatever the fuck, instead of doing that, you get this pattern to repeat over and over again, and it's not going to stop until that person actually learns their lesson. Now, I personally like that. Now, the other thing we're going to talk about with this is expiration dates. Depending on how you do your spell, whether it's just you burn a candle or whatever, and boom, it slaps the person, however it slaps them, and then, boom, done. Or a lot of thanks to certain apps, there's a lot of like hexing jars, and yeah, hexing jars can be great, but does it have an expiration date? If you're keeping it somewhere, then you're basically going to have to go back to it. Like if you randomly shake it, you're still giving energy to it. And eventually that could actually bleed off into your own energy and in your own life, just due to the fact of you having, because, for an example, I have specific curios, if you will, that I have to store in specific locations because over time, the energy that it gives off can build up, and then that can just make things go a little haywire. And then also with that, just know that there are all different types of hexing and cursing. And like I've said in that 3-minute video, you could fuck somebody up more depending on their lifestyle. What I mean by that is we've all came across the people that are kind of just stuck in a toxic environment, and they become to the point. Now, when I mean toxic, I mean drama, all that shit, right? It gets to a point to where they don't know how to react and or even live unless they're in that environment. So taking that environment away, which is technically, theoretically, depending on who's viewing this, would actually help them tremendously, but in the process of that, it could actually, fuck their lives up. Now, with me and my personal practice, it takes a lot for me to even consider hexing or cursing somebody, and I mean a lot, due to the fact that why me? I'm not God. Just because we're witches, that does not automatically give us the authority to do specific types of justice working. You know what I mean? We can't get the God complex in the process of this. Now, I already know, with me being said that and how the internet is, I understand fully, more than you know, that there are hundreds of thousands of situations where people fully do deserve to, get thrown in a jar or buried or stuck to multiple different things. I fully am aware of that. But also just know, whether you believe in karma, whatever term you use, whatever you send out, and no, this is not the rule of fucking 3. Whatever you send out, though, eventually you will get a ripple effect of it in some way, shape, or form. It may not be the same energy that you threw out, but it will affect you, whether it directly affects you, whether it affects something in your life, something like that. It can affect them. Now, I also understand not everybody's going to believe that or follow that, and that's perfectly okay. We're all witches. We're all unique and different. But I'm sorry that to to hex somebody over a comment or something like that. Just why? Why waste that time and energy? Um, Now, with that being said, let's talk about balance more. Now, what I mean by balance is I used to call this more along the lines of like a karma spell, not where you're like summoning karma. Again, I stopped using that term, but not where you're like kind of summoning it and throwing it at them as much as you're trying to balance the scales out. So, if a situation arises and I were to hex somebody, I would I used to do this. I still try to do this because, again, everything in life is a very fine balance. Too much water, it can kill you. Too less of water, it can kill you or make you deathly sick. Too much poison, and it becomes poison. Too much of an antidote, and it can become poison. So there is a fine balance in everything we do in life. Um, but I used to be able to do, or I used to do like a couple of positive workings, if you will, and then do the actual negative working. That way, by the time all of that came back, the first three spells that I did, I would feel those effects before I felt the other one, and I believe that it blunted that. But it just depends on what you're doing, how you're doing it, and there's so many other variables behind that. But like I said before, it is the responsibility of a witch to also sit down and think in almost vividness, if you can, of each possible way that spell could, well, work itself out. Uh, whether that's painful working or positive working, everything that we're doing right now, it is about a balance. And now, the question that I'm going to leave you with, so if you reach this point, congratulations, I'm going to leave you with this question because it was left on a TikTok of mine and it blew my mind, which is, well, what about the folks that actually don't do any baneful workings at all? Do they still have to find a balance? Oh, see there, see. Now, see, the reason I love this question is because there are certain witches, and it makes sense to me. Again, I'm just like, all right, well, I know that's there, so that's something I may have to deal with. But when you do a job spell, or say you already have a job and you're trying to get that next promotion, you doing a spell to get that promotion, and say there were five other people, so like you and five other people, so six people total, one person can get that. If you were to do magic, it technically, theoretically goes against other people's free will in the degree that you are heightening your opportunity and your chance to actually get that. So again, these questions and this type of conversation, it a lot of the times it gets heated, and that's only because not everybody is going to have the same ethics and the same moral compass, and there's nothing wrong with that. We are all individual people. Um, on so many different types of levels. So it all depends on the timing, the situation, and the ethics and moral at the end of the day. Now, etiquette wise, I did a question on TikTok that a lot of people did not understand what I was saying. So I'm going to re-say it and then try to clarify it a little bit because I know it doesn't make sense, and that's the point of it. To all the people that say that if you do spell work on people, now obviously if I'm going to do a blessing on somebody, I may not necessarily let them know, or at least I'll tell them, hey, I'm praying for you, I'm lighting a candle for you. But if it's any type of magic or spell that will dramatically alter somebody's life, duh, I'm going to tell them, right? Or at least somehow say, hey, I'll be sending you some energy, right? So with that being said, to the people that say, well, I have to get permission from this person before I do magic, if you hex people, do you let them know that you're hexing them? No. Okay, well, why do you have to get permission for somebody to do a healing on them, but at the same time, you're not doing the courtesy for the other person? Well, most people, that answer were, you're not going to tell somebody that you're about to hex them, that way they can, like, look out for it. I understand. That's the reason I asked the question. Both of them, to me, doesn't make sense. And I get it. Ethics, moral. Again, I have my own. Again, even with a customer, there are certain spells that I will not do. Now, with that being said, for the people that sell their practices or to sell their spells and magical services, Um, a lot of the times I get asked, well, are you not affected if you were to do a baneful working with somebody? And to that I have to say no. No, I am not. And the most thing after that is, well, wait, yes, you have to, because there's an energy exchange in this, right? What about the rippling effect? Ha ha ha, a loophole. What I mean by a loophole in that is, for one, it takes a very, very specific situation for me to even think about it. But to basically fully answer that, I conjured that energy. So, in other words, I am a conduit of the person who comes to me needing that working. So, I'm just a middleman, a person who is conjuring that energy and directing that energy. That's it. So, therefore, the way that it's worked, it's not going to come back to me. Because a lot of the times, if I do baneful workings in some way, shape, or form, I'm trying to protect my client, again, in some way, shape, or form. So it's a very fine balance. Now, with that being said, I am not saying that I've never done a hexing or a baneful working for a client and I've never got a ricochet for it or something like that. And normally, the few times that have, it was because the original person who came to me was not telling me the full actual story. So, both sides to that, if you sell services or if you're going to someone to possibly get some type of magical service from them, not counting about readings, because everybody's different. If you come to me for a reading, the less amount of detail I know about the situation, the better, because it's more authentic in my eyes. But when it comes to spell work, as much information as you are okay sharing, it needs to be said. Because the more information a witch has about a situation or a circumstance, and then all the people involved, the higher chance, not that it's going to work out perfectly, that's not what I'm saying, magic is not 100% guaranteed, but we have a better, clearer view of how each working could possibly react, because the more people that is involved in a working, the more complex it can get on how it's actually going to affect everybody, because everybody has different psyches, they have different emotional levels, energetic levels, and all of these variants go into spell work. So, and I know for some people, you'll never have to worry about anything that I just said, and that's perfectly okay. But again, I'm a mentor, I'm a teacher. So the more advice I put out there, not only does it start other conversations in other communities, but it can also help other people that's like, oh, wait, I'm not the same. I mean, I'm not, I'm not the only one that thinks like this, or I'm not the only one that asks questions like this. And that's the type of content that I want to make. I want to put as much information out there, whether it's from my perspective or, my own experience. That's how witches learn, through experience, through trial and error. So yeah, and when it comes to things like that, you can even, controversial right now, I don't know why it is, but in some communities it's actually controversial. You can also call upon multiple different types of deities, gods and goddesses, infernals, all of them. You can call upon certain things to also help you and assist you in hexing or cursing somebody. There is even historical evidence and in lore from all around the world of gods doing both, healing and cursing and hexing and all different shits. So I understand the love and light community, not hating towards you whatsoever, but again, let's not, and this is not just, this is to all communities, let's not do what certain or some Christian and other religions do, where they try to press their own views on us. That's the glorious thing about witchcraft. For one, it is not religious. For two, it doesn't have to be spiritual, but in the whole, it can be all of it and none of it at the exact same time. There's a reason that we all flock to it, besides feeling the call and the spark to magic. It was because of that freedom. It was the choice. It's our choice to create our own belief system, as long as it's not hurting anybody or killing anybody or anything like that. You know what I mean? Okay. But yeah, again, I'm trying to keep these videos short, sweet, and simple. And as always, if you finish this, what is your favorite tarot card? There you go. What's your favorite tarot card? And or, if you do not use tarot cards, what is your favorite divinational tool? Let me know in the comments, please. And as always, I would love for you to like or dislike its engagement, and or share. Share it into a group. Share it into a Discord. Share it into a Facebook group. Share it in a group message. But yeah, and I wanted to thank everybody who has already subscribed, and hopefully I wanted to thank all my new subscribers. We're slowly reaching that goal of almost getting very close to breaking 1,000 before the end of this year. And it's September now, so we're doing it though. But yeah, and as always, any information, any sites or anything like that that I follow, my podcast, the Discord, all of that, Magical library, wish list, all of that and much more can be found in the description, linked below in the link tree, and then my email will also be associated with it. If you would like to book a reading with me, have a magical consultation, book any type of custom spell work, and or just have a magical question. So yeah, until then, I'll see y'all later. Peace.